I know what you're thinking, or at least I think you do. It's been a long time since we've been in this space in my office, and I'm unshaven and my hair's a mess. I didn't really come prepared to bring a message today. I have one to bring though. We've had a snowstorm or ice storm here in Greenville, and so we weren't able to worship this Sunday. And oftentimes we are turning this past Sunday's sermon that you see in person, and we're filming it in church. You see it the next Sunday as our digital offering. So this week, without church on Sunday, we don't have a digital offering. So they asked me to come back into the office and offer a sermon. And so I'm going to. So forgive my appearance, if you can. And we're going to read 3 passages of Scripture. And they all have a lot to do with this message. The first is from Luke 7, 11 through 15. Now, soon afterwards, Jesus went to a town called Nain, accompanied by his disciples and a great number of others. When he was near the gate of the town, it happened that a dead man was being carried out for burial, the only son of his mother, and she was already a widow. And a considerable number of the townspeople were with her. And when the Lord saw her, he felt sorry for her. "Do not cry," he said. And then he went up and he put his hand on the body, and the bearer stood still. And Jesus said, "Young man, I tell you to get up." And the dead man sat up and began to talk with Jesus. And Jesus gave him to his mother. Now, second passage, John 5, beginning with verse 1. Look for the common themes. Sometime after there was a Jewish festival, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now at the sheep pool in Jerusalem, there is a building called Bethesda in Hebrew, consisting of 5 porticos. And under these are crowds of people, sick people, blind, lame, paralyzed, waiting for the waters to move. For at intervals, the angel of the Lord can come down into the pool, and the water is disturbed. And the first person to enter the water after this disturbance is cured of the ailments that they suffer from. One man there had had an illness which had lasted for 38 years. And when Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been in this condition for a long time, Jesus said, "Do you want to be well again?" "Sir," replied the sick man, "I have no one to put me in the pool when the water is disturbed, and while I am still on my way, someone else gets there before me." Jesus said, "Get up, pick up your mat, and walk." The man was cured at once. He picked up his mat and he walked away. The final selection is from John chapter 11, beginning with verse 11. It's a familiar story. Our friend Lazarus is resting. I'm going to go wake him. And the disciples said to him, "Well, Lord, if he's able to rest, he is surely able to get better." The phrase Jesus used referred to the death of Lazarus, but they thought that he really meant rest. So Jesus finally put it plainly. Lazarus is dead. And for your sake, I'm glad I wasn't there, because now you will see and you will believe. But let's go to him now. And then Thomas, known as the twin, said to the other disciples, "Let's go. Let's all go with him." And if we have to, we'll die with him. On arriving, Jesus found that Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. Bethany is about 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Mary and Martha's home to sympathize with them over their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him. Mary remained seated in the house. And Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now, whatever you ask God, he will do for you." "Your brother," Jesus said, "will rise again." And Martha said, I know he will rise again at the resurrection of the last days. But Jesus said, "I am the resurrection. And if anyone believes in me, even though they die, they'll live. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die." "Do you believe this?" "Oh, Lord, I do. I believe that you're Christ, the Son of God, the one who has come to save the world." When she said this, she went and called her sister Mary, saying in a low voice, "The Master is here and wants to see you." Hearing this, Mary got up, quickly went to him. Jesus had not yet come into the village. He was still at a place on the road when Martha met him. And when the Jews who were in the house sympathizing with Mary saw her get up and go so quickly, they followed her, thinking that she was going to go to the tomb and weep there. But Mary went to Jesus. And as soon as she saw him, she threw herself at his feet, saying, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." And at the sight of her tears, and those of the Jews who followed her, Jesus said, in great distress, with a sigh that came straight from the heart, "Where have you put him?" And they said, "Lord, come and see him." And Jesus wept. And the Jews said, "See how much he loved him." I've started watching a lot of Sherlock Holmes stories. And there's a lot of them out there that have been turned into movies or to series. Some of the people that have played them, Douglas Wilmore, Peter Cushing, Christopher Plummer, Charleston Heston even, and of course Robert Downey Jr., who can forget him. These are just a few who have portrayed the consulting detective from 221B Baker Street. Different versions, but the image is usually rather similar. I mean, it's foggy London, a pipe, long coat, a man who believes feelings are overrated. Holmes is logic wrapped in human skin, cold reason with good cheekbones. He's not exactly a hugger. He's the kind of guy who would say love is inefficient, and he'd mean it as a compliment. If empathy and logic were 2 pews in the sanctuary, Holmes would be sitting on the logic side, arms crossed, taking notes. But there is one strange little story called Silver Blaze. It's a missing racehorse and a dead trainer to the racehorse. It's a mystery. Holmes solves it, but he doesn't do it with logic, at least not completely logic. This time he also uses empathy. Yes, you heard me correctly, empathy. He imagined how a horse could think, not a person, a horse. He steps inside the mind of the animal and sees the world from the point of view of an animal, and suddenly the mystery makes sense. Which tells us all something valuable, I believe. Empathy is not just about feelings. It's really about perspective. It's about stepping outside of yourself and learning to see the world through somebody else's eyes. Sometimes, even though we have to see it through their hooves. Researchers will tell us that empathy has 3 stages. First, you feel something. Then you try to understand it. And then third, you act upon it. But life really isn't a recipe card. Sometimes empathy doesn't begin with emotion at all. Sometimes it begins with sight, with simply seeing. And that's exactly what happened in the story that I read you a moment ago about the widow's son from Nain. When the Lord saw her, he had compassion, the text says. Not when she spoke, not when she explained herself, not when she made her case, but when he saw her. A widow, no husband. Bearing her only son, no son. No more safety net. No backup plan. A woman without a man, either a husband or a father or a son. That's a vulnerable person. And Jesus doesn't give a speech. He doesn't offer a theology of suffering. He just stops the procession, touches the body, interrupts the machinery of death, and life stands up. Sometimes compassion can look like a miracle. Sometimes, though, compassion just looks like doing the unusual thing. But it all starts with perspective or empathy or seeing. And then there's that man at the pool. 38 years sick, long enough for hope to get tired, long enough for people to stop noticing him. Everybody else sees a stereotype. I'm sure as we read, we see a stereotype. Lazy, broken, excuse maker, problem person. Jesus sees him as a human. He asks one question: do you want to be well? It's a strange question, but it's a holy one. And Jesus doesn't diagnose him. He doesn't lecture him. He doesn't analyze the system that brought him there. He just sees him. And then he acts. Get up. Pick up your mat, walk. And life starts to move forward again. What Jesus did is he rejected the obvious story, the one that everybody else was telling. And Holmes, he does the same thing in this story. He refuses to accept the easy story. He refuses to come to the predictable conclusion. He refuses the stereotype. He imagines other possibilities and other angles and other realities. He even sleeps in the room where the crime happened, not collecting evidence, but just to collect perspective, to fill that space, to imagine another's mind. And that kind of imagination is holy work. It's prayer with skin on it. To be able to imagine what someone else's life is like and care for them. Imagine having 3 children under the age of 9 during the COVID lockdown. What do you think that was like? Imagine sending your African-American son to college and watching him drive across several states, wondering if he's going to be safe when he stops to get gas in some of these towns. Imagine being a stranger in a different country. Imagine trying to make ends meet when there's no longer 2, but just 1. That's empathy. That's imagination. That's faith learning to see. And then you have this Lazarus story. Jesus already knows what's going to happen here, probably. He already knows the ending of the story. And still he weeps. Not because he lacks power, but because he sees this pain. Because he imagines the pain of this loss. Because he enters grief before he tries to fix it. Jesus doesn't rush suffering. He stands inside of it. Then he calls life out of death. But it's empathy first, action next. And here's really the hard truth this morning. You cannot be empathetic and stay inside your own life. You can't love your neighbor and never leave your own point of view. You have to imagine what it's like to be divorced and starting over, or chronically ill, or caring for a sick child, or estranged from your family, or alone in a nursing home, or living in a new country, or learning a new language. Empathy requires exile from our own life and our own certainties. The pagans take care of their own. Jesus takes care of the others. The widows, the cripples, the grieving sisters, the forgotten man, the overlooked woman, the invisible child. And now it's our turn. We're the hands and the feet of Jesus today. We don't have to fix everything. We don't have to save everybody. But we do have to see. We have to see. We have to imagine. And we have to interrupt suffering wherever we see it. Sometimes with a miracle. Sometimes with just a hot meal. Sometimes with our presence. And sometimes with nothing but love. And as it turns out, love is never nothing. It's always plenty.